Hi, this is naturalist wildman Steve Brill. You're watching Foraging with a Wildman, part of the Inquiring Naturalist series brought to you by the Queen's Greens. I'm a naturalist. I'm a specialist in edible wild plants. I have guests sometimes on all different topics dealing with nature, but today we're going to go into my specialty. This is our second show on the wild, edible, and medicinal plants of mid-spring. And I'm going to teach you what these things are, things that are growing in front of your residence or in local parks, especially renewable resources, things that you can just collect that grow back again and collect them again. People cut them down as weeds, and that's because these are renewable resources. When you forage for wild foods, you need to know with 100% certainty what you are putting in your mouth before you eat it. You can eat any plant once, but you might not be around to eat it twice. You want to pick things away from heavy traffic and certainly away from railroad rights of way, and collect things that are super abundant where they are abundant. Each plant is pretty easy to learn, and we're going to look at as many as we can during this hour. So let's see what our first slide is. A lot of these are things that I photographed with a digital camera. As of this show, the camera is a few months old or new, and it takes great pictures. This is a northern bayberry that you're looking at. This grows by the seashore. It has alternating leaves. That means they're not in pairs. The leaves are slightly leathery, pretty smooth on the edges, a little bit slightly toothed or jagged at the edge, and those things you see down the middle of the stalk are the flowers. This plant is wind pollinated, so it doesn't have big showy flowers. It has these tiny little ones and lots of them. Those are the kinds of plants that make so much pollen going into the wind that it can cause allergies, although I don't think anyone is allergic to this. Anyway, this is an American version of the bay leaf. You take these leaves, and you can get tons of these by the seashore and in sandy fields, even in Central Park, and you put them into tomato sauce or stews at the beginning of the cooking, remove them and discard them at the end of the cooking, and they will give you an absolutely delicious savory dish, much, much better tasting than the commercial bay leaves. This northern bayberry, Myrica pennsylvanica, is also medicinal. You take the plant and you pour boiling water, not while it's in your hand, you pour boiling water over it in a cup and let it sit covered away from the heat for about 20 minutes. That gives you an infusion. That's the kind of tea you make with leaves as opposed to a decoction where you boil something. That's what you do with roots or barks. And then you drink the tea. It's a nice beverage, and if you make a strong tea with lots of leaves in it, it will act as an astringent. A really excellent gargle for sore throat, and also will tighten loose bowels, so it's good for diarrhea. Now, there's another use for this plant, too. Somebody who did not like opera thought that Carmen was giving off a lot of noxious fumes, and called all herbs that were good for gas and flatulence carminatives, and this is definitely a carminative. Sometimes if you listen to the plant really closely, you might hear away. So anyway, you take the herb tea for indigestion and gas, and of course if you put the bayberry leaves into bean dishes, it will reduce gas and flatulence. So that's your northern bayberry again. Let's see what we have next. Okay, those are the little flowers. These are the flowers of a plant called the beach pea. Very colorful plant, grows by the seashore, and it has peas at the end of June and the beginning of July in little pods. They are quite delicious. This is not one for unsupervised beginners to collect on their own. The bayberry plant with a very distinctive bay leaf odor is an easy one for beginners. This is not unless you've been shown it on a tour. There are other members of the pea and bean family that are quite poisonous. They can cause permanent paralysis. So this one, you should come on one of my tours, and I do tours on the weekends throughout the greater New York area. Wildmanstevebrill.com, my website, has details about that. Okay, let's see what else we have coming up. This is a blackberry bush. These are the flowers. This is actually a summer plant, not a spring plant. And it has a leaf that's divided into segments called a compound leaf, and the leaf is serrated or toothed. Leaves get bigger as they evolve to catch more sunlight. Then they divide into segments so that when there's a storm, the air can pass between the segments, or the wind, instead of ripping the large leaf off. And the serrations on the side of the leaf also provide more surface area, so there's less force per square inch for the wind to do damage. And let's take a look at the next slide. We'll get a more close-up look of the blackberry flower. There's a flower from the side and the flower bud. See the bud there? Here, this bud's for you. This is an insect-pollinated flower. It has, I believe there are 5 petals, and the yellow in there are the stamens, which provide the pollen. So you'll often see bees going in there. Let's get another view of the flower. There's the flower straight on. Absolutely gorgeous. The blackberries themselves will be in season starting about the middle of the summer, not at the beginning of the summer. And they grow in thickets and fields throughout our region. You wear work gloves. Cut the fingertips off the right glove if you're right-handed. Oh, not while it's in your, while you're wearing it. Take off the glove and cut off the fingertips. Then you can reach out and get the berries with one hand, and your other, or move the bushes around with one hand and pick the berries and eat them with the other. You tie a plastic food container to your belt, and then you have both hands free to eat even more berries. Eventually you get full, and then you can start putting the berries into the container. You do have to watch out for the thorns. Blackberries and their relatives, the raspberries, which are in a group called rubus, Blackberries rubus allegensis, that's the common blackberry, are also called brambles. And in Shakespeare's day, they called lawyers bramble bushes because they have nasty, sharp thorns. They grab onto you, and they don't let go until they've drawn blood. And not much has changed in 500 years.